Everyone. Today we're going to learn how to work with layers and how to restack objects. To begin with, I'm going to go to my Illustrator, then I will start a new file using File, New Function. I will select Print. I will select Letter. I will check the drop-down menu to see inches so that I can see my file is 8.5 by 11, which I knew because I already selected the letter size, but I'm just double checking. I'm also clicking on the portrait orientation, and then I'm clicking on advanced option button to see my resolution. So my resolution is 300 pixels per inch, and this is great. So I'm going to click on create. So here's my new artboard. The first thing I'm going to do is just show you how you can erase portions of a line, and then we're going to look at restacking objects and layers. So to practice this, I'm going to select no fill and black stroke, and then I will select the line segment tool and just draw a bunch of lines. You guys can practice this at the same time as me or later. And then I will also just add a few zigzags to make the pen tool stop. I'm going to just press the command key and click away, and that's going to make my pen tool stop. So we know all this before. So to cut a line, there's different ways of doing it. So the first thing I'm going to do is tear off my scissors. So the scissors tool you're going to find under the eraser. So this is the eraser tool, but to pull out scissors, I'm going to click and hold. Then I'm going to move my mouse over to the edge. I will click on the edge when it highlights, and this way I will tear off this menu so that I can see the scissors tool. So scissors are very easy to use. It will allow you to cut your line into different sections. So basically all you have to do is click on the scissors, and then every time you click on the line, it'll cut it in that particular spot. So now if I use the black arrow, I will then be able to select the tiny little lines that I have created by cutting this long line apart. So then after I cut certain portions, I can also just delete them. So first option is that you cut your line, click right on the line, and then click right on the line, and then you will then able to move the portions around or delete them. Okay, so scissors are easy to use. Whether you have a circle or an open path or a closed path, you just cut your line where you want to cut it, and then using the black arrow you can move or delete your section that you cut off. Another option that you have to get rid of a portion of a line is to simply just delete the points, the anchor points. So for example, if I use the white arrow and if I click on this segment of my zigzag, then if I hit delete key on my keyboard or the backspace key on your keyboard, you're going to get rid of the line segments on each side of the selected point. So basically it'll erase everything up until the next non-selected point. So I know my selected points are white and my selected points are black. So now I only have this one point selected. So if I hit delete, it'll get rid of those two segments on each side of the point. And that's how I can delete a portion of the line. One more time, you use the white arrow, you select the point, and then if you hit the delete, the computer will get rid of the segments on each side of that point, which is selected, up until the next non-selected point. So if I hit delete, it'll get rid of those two segments on each side of my point. So the same thing works with the curved segments too. So if I use the white arrow and I click on my circle, I can see the 4 curved points. If I select this curved point, with the white arrow, and if I hit delete, then computer will get rid of half of my circle, meaning it'll get rid of the segments on each side of the curved point. So that's it really. The last tool that you're seeing here is the knife tool. So for example, if I have a circle that has a fill inside, I can use the knife tool to split it in half or in more sections. So to do that, I'm first going to select my circle, then I will click on the knife tool, and then I will click and drag across. So once I've clicked and dragged across with the knife tool, then I'll be able to just move those sections apart because they have been cut apart with the knife. So let's try this one more time. Let's do a couple of knife strokes. So if I go here and here and here, then I will be able to use my knife to cut my shape at multiple locations. Finally, you have also noticed that there is a tool called Eraser. So Eraser works as well. So if I click and drag across, that's going to erase my section of the line. If it's a closed shape, it doesn't really work as well because it kind of just drags the line, but it works better with open shapes. So if you have an open shape, you would first select it, and then using the eraser you can click and drag across. I think it's a bit more precise if you use the scissors. So when you draw technical drawings, I recommend using the scissors instead of the eraser because it's a lot more precise and more accurate than the eraser. So that's it, how you can cut lines and delete segments of a line. Obviously, if you use the white arrow and if you move the points around, that'll also allow you to shorten the line. So you know that from before. So that is your knife, scissors, and the eraser. So next we're going to look at how to join two different lines. So to show you that, I have drawn two lines, and there's two ways to join them. So the first thing to do would be to join them using the pen tool. So in that case, you would just simply click on one side of the line and then click at the beginning of the other line, and then that's going to join those two lines. So one more time, I could join two lines simply by clicking on the pen tool and then clicking on each side, and then that'll be joined. Another way to join two lines would be to use join command. So to use the join command, you simply have to select 2 points across each other and then hit Control J or Command J. So I'm going to use the white arrow. I'm going to select the first point. It turns black. Then I press Shift and select the other point. The other point also turns black now. So these 2 points are selected. So my last step would be to go to right click. So right click on your mouse and hold. Keep holding your mouse and scroll down until you see join. Once you see join, you let go and the computer will join those two lines. Personally, I prefer to use the shortcut. So if I click on one point, then I press Shift, and then I select the other point, I can hit Control J to join two lines as well. Another way to select 2 points, which is a little faster, is to actually still use the white arrow, but this time I'm actually using the white arrow to click and drag a selection box around those 2 points, and then they turn black because they're selected, and then I hit Command J. So that's just another way to select 2 points so that you can join them. So please memorize Control J because we're going to use it a lot when we do technical drawings in order to join lines and to join left and the right side of technical drawings. The next thing that we're going to do right now is how to restack objects. So to practice this, I'm just going to draw a bunch of objects, and you can do the same so that you can practice how this works. So the first thing I will do is just use several shapes. So let's say a rectangle in red, then I will use an ellipse in yellow, and then I will create another shape. So let's say, let's do a polygon here in blue. Okay, so as you can see, these shapes are on top of each other, and so I can see the polygon is on top, and then it's the circle, and then it's the rectangle at the very bottom. So how can you restack these objects? How can you move them around and make them go up and down? So it's very easy. All you have to do is select the black arrow, select the object, and then right click and hold, and then go down to Arrange. Keep pressing your mouse down, your right click mouse, and then you can choose Send Backwards or Send to Back. So Send to Back will send this shape all the way towards the back, and then Send Backwards will take it one step back, but not all the way behind all the other objects. So if I select Send to Back, then it's going to go behind the rectangle and behind the circle, meaning it's going to go all the way back. So let's try doing that again. So if I select the circle, I go to right click, and then I go Arrange, Send to Back, it'll go all the way to back. If I want the object to go one step back but not all the way back, I will go to right click, Arrange, Send Backward. So you see now the object went one step back but not all the way back. The same idea applies to when you're trying to bring objects forward. So if I select the very bottom object with the black arrow, and if I go to right click and then I go to Arrange, I could go Bring to Front, which will put it all the way on top, or I can say Bring Forward, which will bring in one step forward but not all the way to the back. So if I go Bring to Front, it's going to go all the way on top. So again, all you have to do is select the object, right click. You can actually let go. When you right click, you can let go and then just go down to Arrange and then Bring Forward, Send Backwards, Send to Back, or Bring to Front, depending on what you want. So practice this a little bit to get a sense of it, and it's pretty easy and straightforward to use. So remember that if objects are in the same layer, then the only way to restack them is to use Bring to Front, Send to Back, and restack them using the right click on your mouse. The other thing we're going to look at now is grouping and ungrouping of objects. So for example, if I click with the black arrow, I can individually move these objects. However, there is an option for you to group a certain number of objects. It can be any number of objects or any number of lines that you can actually group. So that way they're going to move together as a unit. So for example, if I use the black arrow and I select all these shapes, I can then group them. To group them, you can hit Command G or Control G, or you can go to right click and select Group from the drop-down menu. So now these objects are moving together because they're a group. So for example, if I have a button and a buttonhole that I'm drawing on a dress, then I will group my button and my buttonhole together so they will move together as a group. If I wanted to ungroup these objects, then I can select them all, and I can then go to right click and ungroup. So once you have ungrouped them, they can then move separately. Okay, so one more time, to group them, you select them all with the black arrow and you go to right click group, or you can do Command G. So if you do Command G, as in Gucci, then the objects will group, and then you can go to ungroup them afterwards to be able to move them separately. So practice grouping and ungrouping objects, and practice restacking the objects using the Arrange function on your right-click mouse. Next thing we're going to look at now is layers. So practice to practice layers, we're going to first display the layers menu. So if you go to Window Layers, you're going to see the layers menu. So by default, I only have one layer, so you guys can see that. So if I wanted to create more than one layer, I could click on Create New Layer button. So basically, I can keep adding more and more layers. And what's important to remember is that whatever layer is selected is the one that's highlighted. So if I want to work and draw a star in a layer number 3, then I have to select layer number 3 and then draw in layer 3. If I want to draw in layer 1, then I have to select layer 1 and draw in layer 1. The other thing that you can see, it's self-explanatory, is the delete layer. So if I select layer 3, I can just click on the garbage and it's going to get rid of my layer number 3. Okay, so click on the layer gets highlighted, and then you click on the garbage. So right now let's make 4 layers, for example. And then the other thing that you can do is rename them. So let's say layer number 1, I want to call it a circle. And then in that layer number 1, I actually want to draw a circle. So I will select layer number 1, I will call it a circle, and then I will click and drag with the shift press to draw a circle. So that's now in the layer number 1. So in the layer number 2, I want to draw a star. So I'm going to double click on the layer number 2 text so that I can edit the text. So I'm going to type star. So I will highlight to select, I will select the star layer, and then I will draw a star in that layer, let's say yellow. So you can see the layer star is above layer circle, and therefore the star does appear like it's on top of the circle. Next layer, I'm going to call it rectangle. So you double click on the layer name, you rename it as a rectangle. And then in that layer, you can draw the rectangle. Again, because it's on top, it's going to look like the rectangle is on top. So there you have the rectangle layer above the star layer. Actually, I'm going to delete layer 4. I don't need so many layers. So now I have a rectangle, star, and a circle layer. So you guys can practice this. I also want you to be able to practice deleting the layer. So highlight the layer and hit garbage. You should also be able to rename the layer and to create a new layer using the Create New Layer button. You should also be able to turn the visibility of your layer on and off. So for example, if I click on the eye icon, then I will no longer see the circle layer because I've turned off the visibility. So the circle will still be saved in my file, but it just won't be visible and it's not going to print unless I turn the visibility on. So I just want you to be aware also that you can turn on and off the visibility of your layer using the eye icon that I'm clicking on right now. The other thing that you should know is that you can actually lock a layer. So for example, if I click on this button here, a little lock icon will show up, which means that I cannot draw or edit this layer. So if I use a pen tool or a brush tool, in the rectangle layer, I'm not going to be able to, because I can see a little stop sign because the layer is locked. So if I try to draw with a pen or a brush, it's not letting me. So if you lock the layer, it's not going to let you draw anything in it, and it's not going to let you edit. So you will see why that's important later on once we start doing the technical drawings. So far, everything you should know is to rename a layer, delete a layer, create a new layer, turn on the visibility, turn off the visibility, lock and unlock. So you lock it and then you click on it again and it's going to unlock your layer. The last thing that I would like you to practice with layers is restacking them. So for example, if I click on the rectangle layer and if I click and drag this layer all the way down, I keep my mouse pressed and then I release. Once you see a blue line at the bottom, then I release, and then that's going to restack my rectangle and bring it all the way down. So for example, now if I select the star layer, and if I want to put it in between the circle and the rectangle, then the same idea. I will click and drag with the left mouse in order to put my star layer in between the circle and the rectangle. Once I see the blue line highlight in between the circle and the rectangle, then I can let go of my mouse, and that's going to drop off my star layer in between the circle and the rectangle. So basically, I just wanted to practice restacking the layers, and it's very easy. All you have to do is click, keep your click and drag, keep your mouse pressed down, and then drag that layer wherever you want it to go. So if I want the star to go all the way down to the very bottom, I just simply have to drag it all the way down and then release the mouse once I'm happy with the location of that layer. Okay, so that's really all you need to practice right now. So to conclude, you can restack items. If they are in the same layer, you're going to use arrange command. If they are in separate layers, then you cannot use a arrange command. Instead, you're going to drag layers up and down in that case. Okay, so just practice doing that. And then in the next lesson, we're going to be ready to start drawing a technical drawing. That's it for this lesson.